I'm going to attempt to do an intro-ish type thing, even though I've never done that before. But okay. Hello to my internet friends who have better taste in books than I. And also the few of you who probably typed in Bras and Broomsticks into the YouTube search bar and found us. That was an okay intro. I like that.
Yeah, I like
It's
that.
accurate.
That's true. I feel like that's what's gonna happen is the people that like you don't know that watch this will just be like, does anybody remember Bras and Broomsticks? And
We do.
We do.
So this is Chelsea and Maya, my two good friends. One common bond holds us together, and it is that we read Bras and Broomsticks when we were 12 to 15 years old. We held up our covers earlier, or like the books that we were using. So like, do we want to do a quick cover reveal for the audience? Okay, so ready? This one's mine.
I love that copy. Is that your personal copy?
Yeah.
I hope so.
I mean, I don't know what library.
Yeah.
A really sad library.
Yes.
This is a library copy.
That's what it should look like.
Yes, I have my my bookmark. It's just what I always used to do in school is the receipt for when it is due.
And I have my Kindle copy here that I bought. So there she is. I think
what's the
I
YouTube thing where you?
Oh yeah,
you have to do that.
Like the makeup. I don't know if that's the problem because there's no autofocus here. But I used to own a copy, and then I think I just gave it away because I was like, I'm never going to reread this book. But here we are.
Little did you know.
Little did I know.
Also, I'm gonna jump in and say, for this book, I'm wearing one of my favorite shirts from like middle school because I'm doing like a closet clean out. And it's like one of the ones, I don't want to go too low because I'm also wearing pajama pants. But do you guys remember this style?
The baby doll top, kind of.
The baby doll top.
It looks really cute.
It's kind of like, because I'm sure you guys have heard this, that there's like this like 2007, 2008, like Twilight core vampire diary, and it fits into that a little bit. You just need some bootcut jeans to wear it with.
I have so many. As Jay knows, I've been doing my, Tima, I've been doing my closet clean out, but all my clothes are Twilight, Elena Gilbert core. And so, yeah.
Will I be cross promoting your closet clean out?
Yes, I recorded it, and yes, you can definitely do that.
Okay, that sounds great. I do love a good closet clean out. But yes, I guess like to start, like since we're on the nostalgia train, like what is like your history with Sarah Mlynowski's work? Like, did you only read Bras and Broomsticks, or did you like find her through other books that she's written? Because she has a lot of books like that she's written. So just like, what's your history?
For me, the one that I remember the most, because I definitely did read this one, but the one I remember the most is the one where she goes to camp.
The one in the series. Okay,
yes. Where, within this series, and Rachel goes to camp, and she has like a cousin or something like that. I don't actually know, that may be a spoiler from 2008. Where I think like there's this other girl at camp who like takes all of her friends, and it's like the worst thing ever. But I remember that one because I really was trying to convince my mom to let me go to sleepaway camp.
Like, do you remember what like compelled you to pick up Bras and Broomsticks in the first place?
I think probably just the cover. I mean, Bras and Broomsticks. Come on, that's a great title. I definitely would buy books, or I wasn't buying. I was going to the library every week, so I miss those days. I literally just get like a stack of books and just read them all until the next visit. And so I would go to like the young adult youth section and just any books that had like a really cute cover. So like exactly this, bright colors, usually an animated girl, animated character on it. And then it's all about the title. And you got Bras and Broomsticks. I'm like, I don't know if I think unlike Rachel, I developed early. So I was like, I wear bras. I want to be a witch with a broomstick. Yeah, this is for me. I like bright colors. I mean, they knew how to get me.
That was also the bra, like honestly, maybe for a little, like, I mean, I developed at like kind of a normal age. to call you abnormal, Chelsea, but I developed.
I just feel very threatened by everything Maya is saying.
I was just very obsessed though with like the idea of puberty and getting bras and all this stuff. And so I think I also was lured in by like bras. And I will say I was surprised by like when I was reading it, she was pretty forthcoming about certain like puberty things that I feel like in other like young adult books of its time, they kind of skated over. And it was a little cringy at moments, but I also was like, yeah, I was wondering about pubic hair at this time. And she mentions pubic hair at this time. And I think that was very exciting to me. And I think I only read the first book. Maybe I read the second one. I don't remember camp. This is all news to me, what Chelsea was detailing.
I distinctly remember I was in 7th grade and I did like forensics, like the speaking thing. And yes. And one of the girls there, she read an excerpt from this book. She read specifically from chapter 2. And yeah, like as like her forensics excerpt. And I was like, that sounds really interesting.
Jay, you read it when you were 12. I also read it when I was 12. Do you remember what age you were, Chelsea, when you read it?
I don't. I'm like trying to pinpoint it based off of my reading history, my age, because I feel like shortly after this book, I jumped up to another book that used all the same qualities, but was slightly older. And this is another book that maybe we could read, but the cover, I don't even remember the name, but the cover was it's actually kind of bad. It's girls with whale tails. And that's what got me. So I was like, I too have a whale tail and I like the bright colors. But it was shortly after reading this book. And I think they were honestly around the same age, which actually makes it pretty scary. This is the same thing that happened with Ganje, where my memory of it is them being much older than they actually are. Like I thought.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I was like, she's fucking 14 and Miri's 12. I was so surprised by that.
Yeah.
I was thinking she was like 16 and that Miri was 14 or something like that. That's where but like right around the same time, I was also reading like not Flowers in the Attic. It was another V.C. Andrews book.
Oh my gosh.
That was Flowers in the Attic-esque, except for the fact that it was a take on race, which I'm sure we all want to know how V.C. Andrews would write race. Not well. I was just reading a lot of like adult fiction that had like very explicit sex scenes at the same time as reading Bras and Brooms. It's so weird that
is very weird. Because I did this, well, I didn't do the same as I like went from this and went because I just finished the youth section in the library. And so that was the logical to go from young adult to adult makes sense in the library head of a child. But I never did both at the same time. That is, I feel like interesting to see how your brain made sense of all of those things.
I truly don't know. Yeah.
Wow. Yes. Shall we dive into Bras and Broomsticks, the PG version of the puberty section?
Yes, I pulled up my highlights and notes as well. I was able to pull it up on Goodreads, so I have stuff too.
So we opened the book. We meet Rachel, our main protagonist, who is a high school freshman with, like traditional like high school freshman wants, especially of like the 2000s era. So Rachel comes home to her mother and Miri, her little sister, and they have a family meeting in which they reveal, Rachel, your sister is a witch. And that is how we open the book. I guess like to start, like I have like a lot of nostalgic feelings about that scene because like the scene where like especially where Rachel gets this explanation that Miri's a witch is like the one where this girl I took forensics with is like that's the one that she like narrated to us, and like that was what got me into the book. Miri and Rachel were at their dad and like fiance's, I don't know, dinner party. They were served lobster, but Miri is a vegetarian, and so she like a moment of empathy brings the lobster back to life. And I mean, like Rachel didn't think something was up there. Like she saw a miracle happen.
Honestly, I think we've set Rachel or Sarah Mlynowski set Rachel up very well as being like very self-absorbed in a way that it makes perfect sense that she did not care. She was like, I don't know. This has nothing to do with bras or popularity or a fashion show, so who cares?
Yeah, it's only like saying it out loud that I was like, Rachel, pay attention. Yes, like Rachel does have like, she is painted as being like absorbed and like selfish, but in a way that is realistic and kind of like fun to like read. It doesn't like come off as super annoying, I think. For whatever reason, I think I'm just endeared by like or entertained by Rachel's like narration.
It took me a second. When I first started reading it, I was like, oh no, this is bad. And then I kind of started vibing with it, and I was actually like laughing. I was like, oh, this is funny. Like I highlighted something and I was like, this is genuinely a funny joke.
So Rachel also has the wants to be popular. She also like has a crush on two boys when this book starts, which, side note and foreshadowing for the rest of the series, I feel is a pattern for her. She just does not feel like she commits to one boy.
Listen, I feel like I honestly jogged my memory to reading this. And I think it's like this book, and maybe I feel like I read another one of her books, but the ones I remember is this one and the camp one.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if we should talk about it because it may be a spoiler, because there's another boy that's introduced. Again, I think it's in this book that he's introduced. So the brother isn't introduced in this one. Okay, in that case, you are right that this is a continuous problem for her with two boys.
I mean, the way she has a crush, like, because I mean, I feel like this was common in general, but the type of crush was very similar to how I had crushes in middle school, which was like, God, no, I would never talk to them. And I would have more than one because I was like, I've got to spread the love of crushes. Like, I just have to. Yeah. I guess it becomes relevant for her that I don't know if she like ends up having a chance with both of them. I don't remember how this goes, but yeah.
It is so like middle school like accurate, like she doesn't plan to pursue either of them, so it's kind of like it's not a problem to have multiples, but
you have to have your crush that you have in Spanish class and then the crush you have when you're at lunch because you don't see the same person everywhere all the time, obviously.
Honestly, it's motivation. That's how I get up in the morning, like I need to look nice for my 18 crushes. But I have to remember what it was like to be that age, because the way that she writes, and at first I was just like, oh, it's just bad writing. And but
yeah, debatable. Could still be some questionable writing there.
Yeah. But honestly, for the perspective of a 14-year-old, it is accurate. Like, what I'm trying to be like, well, I loved it when I was young, and it's different because rereading Gone, a lot of the criticisms I have now were the criticisms I had at that age when I was first reading it. So I'm like, valid.
Yeah.
But this one, the criticisms I have now are strictly because I'm older. And so the way that she describes like some of the boys and their muscular forms, and I was like, this is a 14-year-old boy.
I was like crying when I saw that.
I think I might have skimmed those parts. I like don't remember descriptions of 14-year-old boy
but
body.
It's something that like
using sexy to describe a 14-year-old boy, even if your protagonist is a 14-year-old girl.
She described one. I went on a rant to myself because she described one as like him smelling yummy, and I was like,
oh yes. She describes Raph. Was that his name? Raph? Yeah,
probably Raph.
When they're walking together. Yeah, I was like. It also just feels like, I mean, I think there is like at that age a fine line between like crush and creepy, but I was like, God, this reads so creepy.
Creepy. It's creepy to like be the grown woman like inserting herself into it, but like
creepy.
There it is. That's how it is.
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like most 14-year-olds, just in general, regardless of gender, they're creepy. When you're developing feelings and you don't know how to react to them, it's creepy.
I definitely was, yeah. I was no saint when I was. I feel like I would be very weird and creepy with my crushes when I was like younger.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Yeah.
because you don't like realize boundaries, or like you're still figuring out what boundaries are. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like you're still in like a learning curve, so it's like accurate, but it is like weird for us, the 25-year-olds, like knowing that Sarah Mlynowski is like the grown woman writing for Rachel, but like, like I'm willing to forgive it.
Just to highlight, I
Yes.
did love the way she described everybody in their 20s that was in the, so like she refers to Dave, the 27-year-old hunkalicious fireman who lives on the second floor. And then there's another one with the woman that's their dressmaker who's supposed to be 25. She like calls her middle-aged, and then in parentheses they're like she's at least 25. And I was like, okay, call us out.
That's savage. That's so funny. I mean, like, yes, the hunkalicious 27-year-old firefighter. I mean, I'm about to turn 26, and like in like reference, like it was like the mother. Yeah, she believes that the mother is like a little infatuated with the firefighter. It doesn't come back. And I'm like, how old is your mom that
I know
she
it felt off.
What can I ask?
I was like,
Yeah.
could I date her mom? What does this mean about my age? Am I getting old?
I think we are getting old. We're entering like, I feel like a wider age range of the dating pool.
Yeah, I think you're right, because the mom's probably in her 30s, and so it maybe wouldn't be weird for a 27-year-old.
Yeah, it wouldn't be weird.
30s. Oh,
interesting. But yes, we are introduced to Chelsea, not Chelsea's. We're introduced to Rachel's wand specifically in the romantic department, but also other things like friendship and popularity, typical things that we were taught to want as teenagers in the late 2000s.
Although the friendship stuff really feels kind of like unique in that I don't remember too much young adult novels having such an emphasis on friendship in the way that it's here, like that she's like aspiring. And I think it's relevant. Like, I think it's kind of cool that like one of the main plots is her trying to be friends again with somebody and like ignoring the friends she had. I don't know. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Do we want to talk about Jewel now?
Sure, but can I just, because I have it right here, the very first thing I highlighted on the first page was that she called Bloomingdale's Bloomies, and it really bugged me. But I'm down to talk about Jewel. I just wanted to I was like,
why did it bother you? You just didn't like it?
I mean, it says a lot about the type of character she is. One, that she shopped at Bloomingdale's, which is like, that's, I think, ritzy kids were shopping at Bloomingdale's. Like, I remember I went into Bloomingdale's once as a kid with my mom and saw like jeans that cost $100 and was like, I guess we have to go. But also Bloomies, it's so, who calls it Bloomies? I think at the time maybe it was a thing, but hey, it was just very put off. Also, sorry, one more thing just about setting stuff. I forgot that it like so explicitly took place in New York City. I just think that was really cool. I was like, oh my God, we're talking about New York City.
Sarah Mlynowski, I think, lives in New York City. A lot of her books take place in New York City as well.
So, I am like, it felt very authentic and I'm fascinated by kids who like live in the city. I like wish I was like a city kid.
Since we're talking about Jewel. So like Jewel is Rachel's childhood best friend who recently became one of the popular kids. And I did like I don't really know what I want to say here, but I guess like how do we feel about Jewel? And how does this like relate to like our own childhoods? Not to air out our childhood past and
her name was okay. No, this definitely happened to me. But it's like that's the thing where it's like there's nothing necessarily wrong with what like Jewel is doing, even though I do think it is conscious. She's conscious of it. But I just think that's just kind of the thing with high school, especially when you're trying to kind of like aspire to be popular. And I definitely have this where it's like I was friends with everyone. I didn't have any like enemies or anything like that. But some of my friends were more popular than others. And of course, like you kind of want to hang out with them because they're popular. the thing is you can't criticize. Uh, oh my God, I just forgot her name for a second.
Which one?
Jewel.
Jewel. You can't criticize Jewel because what Jewel is doing to Rachel, and I think Rachel actually says this, what Jewel is doing to Rachel, Rachel is doing to Tammy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just that's middle school, and as Jay said,
It's high school
you grow out of
technically,
it.
but it feels like middle school.
I read it in middle school, so yeah, it's high school technically, yeah, freshman year. But
They're still in middle school and freshman year.
yeah, they're children. They'll grow out of it. They'll realize that it's more important to have the friends that are always going to be there for you than the ones that are looking for slightly cooler, slightly more popular friends.
I think if you like leave, I mean, I like you were talking about, I think there's stuff about the dad and the STB also that is relevant. But if you like leave this book with anything, I feel like the stuff about friendship, I think, is very like useful for young readers.
Yeah. And it also like does like I think like give more like credibility or more justification for why Rachel wants to be popular. Like obviously it's not the only, I'm sure Jewel like wasn't already popular. Like I'm sure that Rachel would still like have this desire to like chase these like two hot boys in her age range and have like the spotlight on her. But like for the purposes of the book, adding the aspect of like also chasing like her childhood best friend just like makes it a little like easier to get invested in, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense. I feel like maybe because I'm watching a lot of reviews on the new she's all that, he's all that thing movie. And it's like, I feel like this is just like very uncomplicated reasons why people want to be popular. Like she wants a boyfriend, she wants to hang out with the cool kids and get invited to parties. She wants to hang out with her best. What are you doing? Sorry. Eloise is just like chilling in my lap. But she wants to rekindle the love, the friendship she had with her friend. So I feel like it's nothing extravagant. She's not like trying to trick someone or become famous or anything like that on Instagram or anything. Like she just wants to be popular because she's a teenage girl and she has these reasons and she thinks that popularity will fix things. And it's just, it's cute and it's honest and it's real and I like it.
Yeah, the simple kind of feeling of just wanting to feel like accepted too. Like I was complaining to my mom and my brother. I was like, Mom, I don't know why you never let me have fun hair when I was younger, because that's like the time to do it. And she was like, no, you're rewriting history. I would have been fine if you wanted to like dye your hair something fun. You just wanted to fit in. You were not interested in trying anything new at that
Good
age.
on your mom.
And I was like, okay. That's actually a good point. Like I think I've forgotten that you like when you're in like middle and high school, you just want to kind of get by and not stand out too much. And I feel like if you're like in with the cool kids, it feels like you're like comfortable. You don't have to, I don't know, worry
you don't have
about
to do
being
that
out.
performance. Yeah. We perceived that if you were popular, you didn't have problems with like feeling self-conscious, but we all did.
Yeah.
I mean, also feel like we've made it clear that none of us were popular.
I feel like I was like, because we obviously know, but I would imagine the popular kids were just as insecure as the rest. But we can only guess. None of us actually have any.
But in addition to like the popularity desires of Rachel, like a big part of the book is the upcoming wedding between Rachel and Miri's father and their future stepmother, who they call SDB, as in short for soon to be, and then they put like step monster, but they just shortened it to SDB.
Oh, I was trying to remember. I was like, what did that stand for?
Soon
to be.
Yeah, soon to be SM. Soon to be step monster, STB for short. They were too lazy to tack on 2 more syllables. And they call her Jennifer in person. I really like this whole low-key parent trap type vibes. And I also like the whole thing with the whole like trying to break up this wedding plot line is that this is like what Rachel identifies as like her in to get like Miri to like do magic. Like Miri is like a really like responsible like 12-year-old. She's like a little activist. She goes to peace rallies.
Yeah.
We stand. We love her. Miri doesn't read straight to me. Like I don't know.
I kind of got that vibe too, actually. I was like, she might just be like prepubescent, but I was like, I don't know. I got that vibe too.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that she doesn't read straight or that she just has her priorities in check.
That's true.
It's hard in comparison to Rachel, who's boy crazy, and then you have Miri, who's just like, the world, I'm busy. That's my new favorite thing. It's just like she's busy saving the world.
I wonder if I just am thinking because she like cares about social activism and she's like a witch, both feel very sapphic.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. We'll see.
Are you just seeing the scene in Portrait of a Lady on Fire? Like she's that kind of witch where she's not actually a witch, she just cares about helping other women and congregating together and, you know, maybe studying medicinal. I don't know. I'm going off, but
I'm trying to remember the scene in Portrait of a Lady on Fire you're talking
Yeah.
the scene
Also
where that's a
watch-
bonfire where she actually catches on fire. But like they're talking about the history of how these women were kind of persecuted as like witches, even though they just like were intelligent women that would share ideas in a group, and all the men were like witches, and they're like, no.
I need to rewatch that movie. All I remember is the tension.
That's what you're
Tension
supposed
is
to
so bad in that
remember.
movie.
Yeah.
It's just the
Maya
tension.
has her priorities straight. Which is also
Thank
what I
you.
took away.
So we've got a Rachel and we've got a Miri. So,
We were talking about STB, yeah.
SCB. Okay, yes. Rachel's like, Miri hates STB as much as I do. And she realizes that like if Miri's gonna do magic, it's gonna be to break up this wedding. And she's like, if I convince her to break up this wedding, maybe she'll make me popular as like a side project. So I thought that was a really realistic like logic jump for her, and I love that. But like thoughts on Jennifer, who is STB's real name.
all right. So it's not obviously the same experience, but I did have a micromanaging stepmother, and which like I got like very angry while reading this, especially the scene with the band-aids, where like the stepmom like tells her to stop biting her nails and then goes behind their back to talk to their dad, and the dad comes back, and I'm just like, oh, I've experienced this, and it's even worse. And like again, and like I'm in a different place, I'm older, so now I'm just like, oh, that would not have like flown with me. I just would have been like, no. Oh, the last scene that I read with them where where did they, oh, he went to go get the takeout. The dad went to go get the takeout, and the second the dad got out of the car, she like turned and was like talking to her about her nail biting. And then when the dad came back in the car, she was all smiles. I was like, oh, I would have called her out. I would have been like, why do you do that? As soon as my dad leaves the room, you say something mean, and then as soon as he comes back, you're all smiles. It's just a little strange and something that I've noticed you consistently do. Like, just like, yeah, the relationship with the stepmom, it's gonna be one of those things where it's like, okay, she's not as bad as she seems, like she has good intentions, she's just a little like neurotic. But I also am just like, this is your like the person you want to marry's children, like you need to have a little bit more decency, a little bit more respect, more respect for their mother, because she calls the mom out on a couple times. But Jennifer, I feel like we're going to, especially with her reaction to the zits and stuff, we're gonna see that she's a decent person. She just has questionable methods.
Yeah, because I will say I was also very like frustrated by the Band-Aid thing. But Jay, you mentioned Parent Trap as kind of it reminding you of Parent Trap. But I think because of the like zit thing, I don't know. I was also getting like flashbacks to Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants when Carmen, America Ferrera, finds out her dad's remarrying, and she kind of feels very like left out. I don't know if you guys have seen Sisterhood, but that was what it was reminding me of, was that relationship with the stepmother, where it was a bit less that like the stepmother was like actively evil like in Parent Trap, and more that she just like didn't know how to talk to her.
Yeah.
What do you think of Priscilla?
Oh yeah, the little daughter. I think she's adorable. Like especially like we're kind of dancing around the zit scene. When we get to like the part where they all like break out like with dimples, Prissy goes from like, being like an annoying 5-year-old like kid who like kind of fits the description of being Prissy, to like I don't know, I was like downright endeared by like she was like picks her nose and wipes it on Rachel, and Rachel starts laughing, and like just her.
Jesse looks not impressed.
I read it a couple times because like on her,
Yeah,
she laughed. I don't.
She either like picked her nose and then ate it, or she wiped it on Rachel, and I can't remember.
No, she did.
Which. Yeah.
She wiped it on Rachel. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know. I found that I liked that. I thought it was like funny how Rachel like was like, all right, this is what's happening today.
I do find it endearing, and that's to the writing. Like again, like she writes these characters from Rachel's perspective, and you see them as just like Rachel is very self-absorbed, and the stepmom is this terrible, evil stepmother. But then you do see them in certain interactions where you're not necessarily getting Rachel's perspective, and you do see that the stepmom does really love the father, and the father does really love the stepmom, and that you see like normally you would think that Rachel would react poorly to having a booger wiped on her, but you see at the end she just thinks like it's just a really cute little kid thing to do. But I do feel like that's when you kind of see like, okay, when you take out like when she's not focusing on popularity and boys and everything like that and her own personal gain, like she's a nice person.
Yeah.
And showed a lot. You're right. I feel like when you kind of strip, like we get like little pieces of like the root of like who Rachel would probably be as like a 25, 26-year-old. You know what I mean? Like the like actual personality there behind the like just wanting to be popular. And I think that scene with Prissy when she's like cleaning off the helping her with the acne and the pen marks on her face, you kind of see her, and I thought that was sweet.
So like since we were dancing around it, so like the scene was the reason why they all like had acne on their faces was because Amir and Rachel's like genius plan to break up their father and his fiance was the plan was to make her ugly, and they weren't like clear on how they were gonna do it, but they like concocted a spell, and it made Jennifer break out, but like unfortunately that those breakups spread to the whole family. I thought it was fun, but I also was like, guys, like, heterosexual men, like they're shallow, but they're not that shallow. And also like they said the plan was like that the spell would last a couple of days, and I'm like, you really thought that they were gonna break up over zits in a couple of days?
Admittedly, she thought it would be like boils or something.
Yeah, she thought it was gonna be boils.
The worst thing is gonna be pimples. She was so upset.
She thought it would be more severe, but I guess like, what were your thoughts about that? I don't know. I felt that like if it feels like us as 12 thought it would work, then like I support it, but like I don't know.
I do like it because again, like I know that they thought it was going to be boils, and I do understand the logic because especially for Rachel, who doesn't like, her idea of love is just like a crush, is just like sniffing people. She doesn't do this often, but like just like, yeah, it's a 14-year-old girl having a crush on someone, and she just sees her dad and this woman, and she's like, well, she's pretty. And it's the same thing with her and Raph and the other guys that she likes, where it's just like, they're pretty, and I'm gonna fantasize about what their attractiveness can do to me. And I feel like, yeah, that makes kind of complete sense for them to just be like, okay, well, he's attracted to her because she's pretty, because she's not nice to us. So it's not because she's nice or she cooks or anything like that. She's just pretty. So let's take that away. And I guess it would make sense, even though their intention is boils and not pimples, that like something for just because when she gets a zit, she panics and doesn't want to go to school because she thinks it's the end of the world. So to have boils for a few days would seem like the end of the world and the end of a relationship. So yeah, logically, that would make sense for a 14-year-old to believe.
Yeah.
I think like also like thinking about it, like they don't really like they believe that like SDV is going to be her own downfall in the sense that like they feel like it's gonna take very little for their dad to realize that she's a terrible person because they don't see the other sides of her. So I guess it does make sense that they're like, yeah, like her one thing that they see that like her prettiness is like the only thing that they can see that is a positive for her, sort of like, well, if you take that away, there's really nothing left. Sort of not related, but there was like a line where Rachel says that like STV's like ex-husband like lives in LA, and she was like, if I ever met him, I would love to compare notes. And I'm like, I mean, if he's like a man living in LA, I think he was the problem.
And that's that on men who live in LA.
the true antagonist of our story and of our lives. Men living in LA.
One last thing from me. Another thing I want to highlight as like foreshadowing is that like when they all get zits, like Rachel gets one on her nose that's like super gigantic. It has like history as like this is like what they called Santa's gift. Like last Christmas, she got like a really big zit on her nose here because this is from the second half of the book. So like this is foreshadowing for something that will come into play later. And I just like, yeah. And I just like, I love how like Sarah goes on a lot of tangents, but like they're both like either entertaining or like they serve a purpose. Like a lot of the things she talks about, like there's a payoff, unlike another author that me and Chelsea are quite familiar with.
Hey there, Pastor. Sorry to cut you off. You know I wouldn't do that to another woman of color. But you are running a little long, so I'm going to split this video into 2 parts. Let me tell you something. Jenny Nicholson has stolen hours of my life. There are a lot of YouTubers that I would happily sit through hours of footage for, but I know that I am not one of them, and that's okay, you know. If you want to watch part 2, it should be up right now or soon. I don't know. It depends on how good of a day editing Jay is having. Okay, bye. Okay.